first of all, I'm really happy to be here, and I wish to thank everyone and Nikki in particular for the hospitality. So I will try to give you an overview of what we've done. It's not going to be technical, so I'm not going to spend time in technical details because we don't have much time. But just what I want to do is to provide you with the main ideas. And of course, I'm more than happy to answer any question that you would like to. Well, first of all, what is each FRED 2 about? What is it that we want to do? Well, say that the core activity of FRED 2 is to design a map of concepts to detect and predict behaviors and risk profiles in order to prevent and tackle frauds. How do we do that? The interesting thing is that we do that by exchanging knowledge. The academia provides knowledge basically on methods, and the professionals on the field provide the core knowledge, so the knowledge of what's going on in the field. We had several meetings, and now we are at the point of see the first results. Okay, so what is the map of concept and what did we come up with? The basic idea that we realized during the workshops and the exchanges of idea is that basically all the firms that put in place frauds have characteristics, specific characteristics. And some of these characteristics can be captured by measurable indicators. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, yes. Once we realize which are the good indicators to identify this typical behavior of fraudulent firms, we can use statistical methods and machine learning methods to analyze them and to understand, to pinpoint which are the fraudulent one, or at least the ones that might, light a red light. Okay, that's the key idea. So here is the map of concept, as you can see. The first step was to identify the key indicators of fraudulent behavior and then try to validate them. The second step is to gather the data. The data is always, of course, the core of this kind of activities, because with data, you can translate the idea, the knowledge, the expertise of professionals on the field to something which is measurable. Then the third step was to identify which are the, say, statistical or machine learning algorithms that are better suited for pinpoint the weird firms, the firms which have weird behaviors. Okay. And then the last step would be to validate the process. And then I will tell you what do I mean by that. Okay, so step one, the key indicators of fraud. After all the meetings that we had and the presentations, we, and also, of course, using the knowledge of the colleagues from Sapienza and from the other universities, we were able to identify a set of indicators that can be built directly from the balance sheet and financial statements of the firms. And after that, we are actually in the process of hearing also what do the accountants in Italy think about these indicators. So we are also gathering the knowledge of the accountants. Hopefully, what we will do is also a focus group that will help us also improve the knowledge on these key indicators of fraud. The idea, the step 2, remember, was to gather the data. So the ideal thing to do is to, first of all, gather data and build indicators from balance sheets and financial statements, and then enrich this type of information with other relevant informations. Which ones? Well, for example, an interesting thing to do could be to have information on previous behavior of these firms on the applications that they did to EU funds. Or also, of course, some other kind of data, relevant kind of data that we need to identify and to discuss. And then at the end of this process, we could have an integrated database. So far, the only thing that we have available is data from the balance sheets and financial statements of Italian firms. The third step, as you can remember, was to feed the algorithms with this data that we collected and that we built. We had a very interesting webinar on the 27th of June, so last week, that provided with a complete overview of all the statistical techniques available to do that. What is the general idea? So the general idea is to identify the anomalous firms. So the firms which behave differently from the others with respect to all these key indicators of risk. It's quite a simple idea. And this is what we've done. So we, to have a case study, a first case study, we decided to build the indicators on a sample of building and construction company, Italian, of course. Why building and construction companies? Well, because in Italy sometimes, well, they often have something, going on. Okay, then once we built these indicators, as I said, we fed the data to 12 algorithms, the anomaly detection algorithms. That's a technical name, but basically what they do is to say, okay, these firms are different from the others. So it's something very, very, very simple. And what we got was to obtain a ranking of firms. Some of these are the weird one, so that there is something maybe that it's worth looking at more details, and the other one are, say, the normal ones. The interesting thing was that we selected just 4 algorithms, and the interesting thing is that these algorithms provided consistent results. So basically the idea is that if an algorithm says that that kind of firms are different, are anomalous, also the other algorithms pinpoint exactly the same firms. Okay, this is, say, the main result that I wanted to show you. What does this graph tells us? All these points are firms. And as you can see, say on the x-axis, we have the scores coming from an algorithm, and on the y-axis, you have the score of anomaly coming from another algorithm. And as you can see in this graph, I think it's quite clear that you have a bunch of points which are close together. So this is the bulk of the data. These are the normal firms. So there is nothing weird going on. And then you have some firms which are far away, okay? And this means that these firms behave differently from the point of view of the risk indicators of fraud. Okay, so here for a professional on the fields, it's very easy because we know which are these firms. We can label them. We know which firms there are. And so they could decide to take a look at some of this. Okay. So, for example, I don't know, they could decide that this one are the weird one, the different one, the one that is worth looking at. Of course, anomalous firms does not mean that they are fraudulent. They are just different from the bulk of the data with respect with the key risk indicators. But we need to validate this procedure. And how can we validate that? Well, we can do this by going back in time and make the procedure for firms back in time, and from firms that we already know which were fraudulent and which were not. And we can validate and see if this algorithm works. That's the main idea. So I hope I was clear, not too technical, and I'm sorry that I did not went into the details of the algorithms of the key indicator of frauds, but I just wanted to, provide you with the main key ideas.